Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everybody, how you going? I hope you're all keeping well, staying fit and keeping safe as usual. And I hope, really hope you all had a great Eid. Yeah, Eid Mubarak once again to all of you guys there. All my students, all the teachers, anybody watching this. Hope you had a magnificent Eid. Okay, it was just I think it was on Sunday, was it? Yeah, like 2 days ago, Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, so very unusual Eid, wasn't it, that we had this year? Very different to all the previous Eid al-Fitris that we've ever had, I think. I don't think we've ever had an Eid just, like this, in isolation, in lockdown, with social distancing and physical distancing and all of that stuff that's happening right now. It's a real shame, of course, and I'm sure it's very hard for most of you guys to try and, live with this temporary new normal, okay? It's hopefully, going to get better soon. But in the media, I've been watching TV and watching a bit of the news, and they're saying something like some of the restrictions have been lifted. Well, yes and no. Okay. I really think it's a little bit too soon to do that. But then again, it's already happening. So we'll just let's just wait and see what happens. Inshallah, everybody will be okay, and this virus, resolves itself sooner than later. And let's all try to do what we can to try to minimize any risks, okay? Because it's it's still there, okay? The virus, the coronavirus or COVID-19. Is still around, and people are still getting affected. So, yes, this has obviously impacted on our Eid festivities and celebrations. Of course, we are not allowed to, do whatever we want and go anywhere we want. So, yeah, it's a little bit interesting, isn't it, this year? So actually this topic for today is going to talk about simple past statements, okay, using regular and irregular verbs. And we'll try to obviously relate it to the current issues happening at the moment. So yeah, let's begin. Bismillah. So, yeah, did you have fun? How was your Eid? What did you do? Where did you go? Did you try any new foods or new delicacies? Yeah, tell me, what did you do this Eid, or last Eid, okay? Now, to answer this question, and it's probably a question that most of your friends are going to ask you when you get back to school or when you speak to them, or, not just friends, but your family as well. I'm sure they would like to know what you did and what you got up to. So we have to be ready to know how to answer these questions, okay? And I'm sure most of you have probably, being in high school, you already have studied simple past statements and using regular and irregular verbs. But because you might not have used it, on a regular basis, you might have forgotten, okay? So if you have forgotten, that's fine. We'll try and recap some of the grammar here now. But if you have, if you still remember and you know how to use it, great, good for you. This will be a bit more practice that you can use to, elaborate your answers or to, practice your English in general. So, yes, obviously. When we're talking about the past, okay, there are two types. There's the simple past, okay, and statements using regular verbs. This is the basic way to answer questions in the past. and the other one is using irregular verbs. Obviously, that will depend on the verb that you use, and that will obviously determine which to use. Is it regular or irregular? Hopefully, you guys already know verb 1, verb 2, verb 3. Okay, that is going to help you so much. Okay, when you're talking about past actions. So, yeah, if you need more practice with those verbs, verb 1, 2, and 3, please do so at home at your own time. Okay, maybe write down just 5 past tense verbs in regular and irregular forms, and practice them. Okay, especially the irregular ones. They are quite tricky. With the regular, it's quite easy, right? We just add an ed. Okay, and that's what we're going to start with now. So basically, with simple past statements, we use, we can use with regular verbs. We basically just add ed or ied. But if it ends in an e, obviously you just put a d at the end of the word. So, for example, watch becomes watched. Okay, exercise becomes exercised. Study becomes studied. Stay becomes stayed, and shop becomes shopped. Okay, with double P. All right. So there are some. It does affect the spelling as well. Okay. Sometimes you have to put an IED, and sometimes you just have to double the last consonant. Like shop becomes shopped with double P. All right. So I'll put those words in a sentence example. Okay, so for example, I studied on Sunday, which is a positive statement. What's the negative? That's right, I didn't study on Sunday. Okay, or you can say, I studied on a Sunday, I didn't study on Saturday, right? Another example, you watched television, and you can say, yeah, that's positive. The negative is, you didn't watch. Okay, you didn't watch. For example, you didn't watch a movie. I watched television. I didn't watch a movie. Okay. Notice there we don't put an ed in the negative sentences. All right. She stayed home. Okay, that's positive. She stayed home. What's the negative? She didn't stay home. Right. So you don't say she didn't stay home. Okay, that would be incorrect, and that's not how we speak. So make sure you don't put an ed on negative sentences. So you just say she didn't stay home. Okay. We shopped for groceries. Positive. Okay. A negative example could be, we didn't shop for clothes. All right. So we shopped for groceries. We didn't shop for clothes. And last example, they exercised on Saturday. They didn't exercise on Sunday. Okay. Again, they exercised on Saturday. Positive. A negative example could be, they didn't exercise on Saturday or Sunday. Okay. So obviously, didn't means means did not. Okay. So that's the first rule that that you should understand and that you should know how to use. So practice that if you haven't had enough practice. All right. So here we go. I'll give you. Here's an example of somebody talking about their weekend. Okay. All right. So this is Tim talking about his weekend. I'll just read it to you and see if you can notice or pinpoint point out the past statements. Okay. On Friday night, I waited for a phone call, but my girlfriend didn't call. Okay. I just stayed home and watched television. On Saturday, I visited my friend Frank. We talked and listened to music. In the evening, he invited some friends over. We cooked a great meal. I didn't work very hard on Sunday. I didn't study at all. I just walked to the mall and shopped. Okay. I'll say it again. On Friday night, I waited for a phone call, but my girlfriend didn't call. I just stayed home and watched television. On Saturday, I visited Frank. We talked and listened to music. In the evening, he invited some friends over and we cooked a great meal. I didn't work very hard on Sunday. I didn't study at all. I just walked to the mall and shopped. Okay. The very basic sentence there, example, using simple past statements and regular verbs. Okay. So let's see if you can write something like that about your weekend. Okay. We had a very big weekend, you could say, because we celebrated our Eid on Sunday. So yeah, you can talk about Saturday and Sunday, Saturday being the last day of fasting and Sunday being Eid al-Fitr. And you can just practice, okay, something like that. By the way, there are some there's a point here that I want you to bring to your attention. And that is the pronunciation of ED, okay? Simple past ED endings, okay, they all end with ED, with simple pasts usually. But the way they are pronounced are quite different, all right? It might sound the same, but they're actually a little bit different. And this is what I want to express to you now, so you can be aware of this and start practicing as well, okay? So the past ED endings, there are 3, okay? Although they all end in ED, they sound a little bit different, okay? Let's see if you can repeat after me and see if you can notice the difference, all right? So first word is worked. Worked, worked, okay, worked, and watched, 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 watched. All right, if you notice something, those, shopped, okay, these words have an ED ending, but they actually sound a little bit like a T, okay? So when we say these words, we don't say worked, or watched, or shopped, okay? We blend them together and it does end up sounding like a little bit like a T. So listen carefully. Watched, 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 worked, 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 shopped, shopped, shopped. Okay, notice how the ending of the pronunciation sounds like a T instead of an ED, all right? So, bear that in mind. The next ED's pronunciation is sounds like a D, which it should sound like, okay? Like cleaned, okay? Notice the ED there, but the pronunciation is clearly a D sound. Cleaned, cleaned, stayed, 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 played, 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 okay? Very clearly, they sound like an ED. All right, or at least the D, which is a very clear D. All right, exercised, okay, studied, okay, ED endings. All right, so make sure that you can tell the difference between the T and the D sound. The last pronunciation of ED is ID, okay? So for example, invited. Okay, notice how it sounds like an ID instead of an ED. Invited, visited, visited, visited. So those, weighted. Okay, definitely ED and like weighted. It's an ED, but spelling, but it sounds like an ID. All right, so they are the 3 different ways that you can pronounce the ED endings. All right, one sounds like a T, like worked and watched. One sounds like a D, like cleaned. Okay, there's no E pronounced. Cleaned, stayed, all right, played. And the other one sounds like an ID, all right, which probably sounds more like the ED spelling of the word. a bit, the ed sounds clearer in the last example. Okay, so invited, visited, okay, needed, okay. So you should be aware of those words and you should start practicing, okay. Let me give you some examples of just a few words and see if you can hear what it's how I'm pronouncing it. All right, so cooked, 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 cooked. Does that sound like a T, a D, or an ID? Cooked. I cooked dinner last night. It was delicious. Okay, sounds like a T. Very good. Exercised, exercised. Okay, does it sound like a T, a D, or an ID? Exercised. It's a D. Very good. So exercised is like cleaned and stayed. Exercised. You can almost hear the E at the end of that. All right. So that's another example. What about listened? Listened. Listened. D again. Very good. Okay. So yes, that's how you pronounce listened. Okay. It's not listened or listened. It's listened. Listened. I listened to that song. Okay. Or I listened to the audio recording. Okay. Next, needed, 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 needed. All right. Yes, it sounds like an ID, needed. All right, and that's how you pronounce it. Okay, it's not needed. It's not. Sorry, it's not need. It's just D. Okay, and it's not needed. It's needed. Needed. Yeah, I needed to find my earphones. Lucky I had a spare one. Okay. Shopped, 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 shopped. Obviously we spell it with an S-H-O-P-P-E-D, but we don't say it with like an ED, okay? Shopped. We say it with a T, yeah. T, not a D and not an ID. Shopped, okay? And last one, waited. Waited. Yeah, I waited for my family to come and visit me. So waited, obviously, very clear ED there. And that ED spelling is pronounced like an ID. All right, so I waited. I waited. Yes. All right. So, maybe you can write some examples of one sentence using simple past statements and regular verbs. For example, yesterday I watched television. Or the negative, yesterday I didn't watch television. All right. Next one is past simple statements usually using irregular verbs. Right. Now here's where it can get a little bit tricky. Now as you know, most verbs end in ED, a D, or an ID, IED. But there are roughly about 100 or so, okay, 100 and something, like 120, 130 irregular verbs that you should know and try to remember them, okay? Because they're irregular, they don't end in an ED, right? They actually sound like a completely different word altogether most of the time. So, yeah. For example, okay, buy, when we buy something, the past tense is bought, okay? Eat, past tense is ate. Yeah, like the number 8 is how we pronounce it. And felt. Felt is the past tense. What's the what's the present tense? Feel, okay? So yeah, with these irregular verbs, and usually you can find a list of them actually in most good books, like I have here at the back of my grammar book. There is the second last page is a whole list of irregular verbs, right? And Yeah, you can download this anywhere you like, from anywhere, and you will find these words there. Okay, so basically it's just two columns. Okay, these are verb 1, verb 2, verb 3. There's a row there and another row there. So there's not that many really, and they're actually quite fun to say as well. So the best way to remember these irregular verbs are to try and obviously remember the word by using it as much as you can, but also they sound quite different as well. Okay, they're not regular, and that's probably why they call it irregular, because it's nothing like the present tense or verb 1, okay, of the verb. So practice it, all right? So yeah. So like, for example, I got up at noon. I got up, okay? I got up at noon is positive. Negative is you didn't get up at 10. Okay, you got up at noon, you didn't get up at 10. Sorry, read that wrong. You got up at noon, you didn't get up at 10. Okay. I did my homework, I didn't do laundry. I went to the museum, I didn't go to the library. I met our classmates, we didn't meet our teacher. You came home late, you didn't come home early. They had a picnic, they didn't have a party. Okay? They had a picnic, they didn't have a party or a party. Okay? There are just some examples of some irregular verbs in simple past statements. Guys, I'm pretty sure you've been through this with your local teacher, okay? The past tense, okay? If you forgot or you need more practice, please read up your notes. I'm pretty sure you have them in your books as well. So, please practice that. It is critical that you know how to use it. Like, we use it all the time, right? Because we don't really talk much about the future, okay? We talk a little bit about what's happening now, but I think what we talk most about is what happened in the past. All right, so you really have to know how to use it. And by the way, in my IELTS grammar book, the first thing that you learn there in this book in the contents is the present tense, okay? But the second point is past tense, okay? And there are two different past tenses. Past continuous and there's past perfect, okay? So get used to it, get practicing, okay? And start using it properly, okay, guys? So yeah, I'll just give you some more examples here, okay? Wait, let me see if you can tell me the present tense for these irregular verbs. 8. Oh yeah, sorry, I already said that one. Read. What's the past tense? Read. Red. Okay, just like the color. It's spelled the same, R-E-A-D, but we pronounce it as red, like the color. Okay. What's road? Not the road as in what you drive on, but road. Okay. What's the present tense? Ride. Very good. And saw, yeah. I saw my best friend yesterday. Okay, what's the present tense? See, yeah. Sat. Sit, yes, sit, sat. Took. Take, very good. Take, took, right? And wore. Not as in the fighting, bang, 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 boom, boom, boom. No, I'm talking about clothes. So I wore a batik shirt on Sunday. You can say the present tense is wear, yeah? What am I going to wear today? Okay? Or, yeah. Just a little bit of more practice there for you as well. Okay, so, you can, for example, if you want to list the things that you did do, so things I did, you can say, for example, I saw a movie, I studied maths, I cooked dinner, I played with my brother, I helped my sister. Okay, these are all things that you can write down in very short sentences to explain what you did. Things that you didn't do, for example, you can say I didn't exercise, I didn't buy clothes, I didn't go to my village, all right, to visit my family or my grandmother or grandfather. I didn't pray Eid at the masjid. Okay, all of these things are things that you can use as well. So the last point I just wanted to discuss is the simple past yes/no questions. Okay, so we ask these a lot as well, so it's might as well put this in there. And it's good for you to know how to not just answer these questions properly, but also how you should ask those questions, right? So we ask simple past questions by for example, use yes/no questions. For example, like, did you have a good summer? Okay, did you have a good summer, or did you have a good Ramadan? Yeah, you could say yes, I did. I had a great Ramadan. Okay. Negative, no, I didn't. My Ramadan was very boring. Okay, or whatever it was to you. Okay. Another example. Did Eric like his vacation? Yes, he did. He liked it a lot. Or no, he didn't. He hated it. Okay. Did you play basketball on the weekend? You can say, yes, I did. Or no, I didn't. I played tennis. All right. Did Erica and her sister go to her village? Okay. Or did they go to school? Okay. You can say, no, they didn't. All right. Or yes, they did. Okay. So we use, that's basically, using did and didn't, all right, to answer very simple yes or no questions. Okay. So, let me ask you a few questions, and I'd like you to practice answering these, all right? So, did you go anywhere interesting last weekend? Did you buy anything interesting for Eid? Did you eat any new foods? Did you meet any interesting people? Did you exercise or play any sports? Did you work? Did you play any games? Did you read any books? Did you see any movies? Did you take any pictures? Did you wear different clothes? And did you have fun? Okay. See if you can answer those questions, okay? And obviously, it helps to know, obviously, how to explain what you did, right? So, you can say, I went swimming. I go hiking, or I went hiking. All right. So don't just stick to ed, guys. Try to use all the grammar that you've learned so far. All right, to answer those questions. Okay. So really quickly about what I did. What did I do on the weekend? What did I do for Eid? Well, usually I go home, all right? I usually go everywhere. Usually I'm never home. Like last year, I went to visit my wife's family in Jombang, which is near Surabaya. And, we spent 2 weeks there, and we went to Surabaya as well. And we traveled, basically we went by car, and it was a nice road trip. And it was interesting to meet all her family and all of my family again. And it was great, but this year was obviously completely different, not the same. We got stuck. Yeah, we're not allowed to go anywhere in this current crisis with the pandemic situation happening. So obviously we're quite limited, and I didn't go anywhere. Obviously, I didn't even go to the masjid or pray, eat, at the park. I stayed home. Which is felt really weird and awkward, but I stayed home. I prayed at home. I prayed obviously subuh, and then after that I prayed the sunnah prayer, the Eid prayer. I didn't go anywhere. I just stayed home. I was hoping some of my friends would come over, but family and friends would come over, but they didn't. That's expected. I mean, we are not, we're not supposed to go anywhere anyway. We're supposed to stay at home. But yeah, what was interesting was I think the neighbors felt, quite the same. They were, would be quite confusing and really unusual because this has never happened before, right? So I was, at home, basically spent the whole day at home. I stayed home with my wife and my daughter. We slept, we watched TV, we ate lunch, and we talked. We forgave each other, and it was a really blessed, feeling. I really loved this. I love Eid. I love Ramadan, and it does amazing wonders for not just your body, but mentally, spiritually. Everything is it's amazing, and subhanallah, alhamdulillah, we're all Muslims, and may Allah continue to keep us steadfast on His deen and keep us strong, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I mean, but one interesting thing that I did do on Eid, on Sunday, was because nobody, I looked outside and there's nobody moving around. I didn't hear any noises. I didn't see anybody, walking around. Nobody knocked on my door. And, I was thinking, I wonder why nobody's going out. I mean, we're in a very small complex here. I mean, land size-wise, it's quite big. It's about 4,000 meters. But there's only 5 houses here. 6, actually, but one of them is vacant, okay, just been renovated. So there's really only 5 houses in this whole complex. And so when something is happening outside, you can usually hear it or see it, right, from the front of your house. But nothing happened on Sunday, and I was waiting all day to see, for a little bit of commotion happening on the streets, so that I can come out and, wish everybody an Eid Mubarak. But it didn't happen. So I waited and waited and waited, and still nothing happened. So I thought, okay, maybe because I'm the youngest, in this complex, everybody around here is much older than me. The oldest one is Aki next door. He's an ex-pilot. He's now 80, but he's still fit, mashallah. Every day he walks at least half an hour, like religiously every day, every morning after subuh. So he's fit, mashallah, and he still works, which is amazing. And so basically, there's a grandma across the road. She's like 70 something. But Hermanto, he's like the first person to live in this complex. He's like retired as well. He's reaching, his late 60s. And there's Bu Yvonne. She's a businesswoman and in property, I think. And she is also very old. Okay, she is way over 60. So I'm the youngest in this whole complex, being 45. And I thought, okay, well, maybe, in the tradition of, Indonesian culture, it's best that the youngest, approach the eldest, okay? You don't, that's what you do, right? Indonesia. So I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send everybody in a message in the group and let them know I'm coming over to say hello. And in that text message I wrote, no terima tamu, no problem. Just come outside. I just want to say hello and kirim salam and wish you all the best. And at 5 o'clock I will be coming around, starting off with Aki. And so that was like 15 minutes before 5. And at 5 o'clock, sure enough, I was ready. My wife was ready. We got dressed a little bit. And we went around to the complex. And so, I went next door. They opened and we said our salams from a good distance, like 2 meters. And I went around. But funny thing is, as I was heading towards the other side of the complex, people started to come out, right? And they're all, with their immediate families, and some with extended families, taking photos, and really enjoying the whole essence of Eid. And it was really amazing to see, because when I went across the road, after I went to Aki's, I went across the road, said, salam to Neen and her family, and they stayed inside and said walaikum salam back. But as I kept walking, they came out because they noticed there was a little bit more commotion happening now on the other side of the complex. So it turns out that Pat Hermanto and Miss Bu Ifan, these two houses, they all literally came out at 5 o'clock, and it was amazing, There I was sitting at home thinking all day that I wasn't going to see anybody, and then something came into my mind, and I had an idea of just telling people to come out, because it just feels weird, doesn't it, to have Eid and not have anybody with you, It's bad enough you can't be with your family and friends, okay? But, in Islam, we actually supposed to look after our neighbors as well, just like family. So, this is what gave me the motivation and the courage to basically invite everyone to come out. And they did, alhamdulillah. I took some great photos with everyone, and they were so happy to see other people. Because, I guess we have also been in isolation for a couple of months now. So it was just good to get out and see our neighbors and visit some people that we don't usually go out and visit. So anyway, that's what I did. It was unusual, a bit weird and awkward and whatever at the beginning, but I think if this was to happen again next year, I think I don't know what to do, and that is to invite everybody out, maybe meet at a certain spot, whatever, maybe eat buka together or whatever, I don't know. We can celebrate somehow, we'll work things out, and I'm sure things will get better, inshallah. All right, guys. That's all for today's class. Please practice that. It's very important that you know how to use the regular and irregular verbs for simple past statements, okay, in questions and answers. All right, guys. Answer those questions I asked you before. Keep practicing, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.